What's up, guys? This is the YouTube Handyman. In today's episode, I'm going to be giving you two real world reasons why not to use these P traps. No, I'm not going to tell you it's against code. No, I'm not going to tell you if you're a master plumber, you should never use this. I'm going to be giving you the real reasons why not to use them. It may be tempting, especially if you are a DIYer and you install in your kitchen, you get to the sink, and the last thing you gotta do is do the plumbing underneath the sink. And then you see the speed traps, and well, it will make a 2 hour job easily a matter of minutes. But wait, you need to watch this video before you do that. Let's get started. Alrighty, so let me give you the backstory on this installation right here. What you see on the screen has been sitting there for the past 6 years. Now, customers started noticing a smell probably about 6 months ago. And then after the smell, it was slow draining. So that brings us to the reason number one. And that is, well, you see the grooves right there? What makes the actual P-trap flexible? Over time, grease, dirt, junk is going to get trapped in between the grooves. And what's going to happen is, well, the stuff that you're flushing down the drain is food. So over time, it's going to rot, and that smell is going to come out of the drain, and you're going to smell it. And the longer it stays there, the worse the smell it's going to get. Now, the flexible part of the P-trap is before the P-trap itself, and this is the reason why the gases are actually coming out of the drain. If it was after the P-trap, you wouldn't have any issues at all. But as you can see right here on the screen, that is full of junk. That is actual food. All kinds of stuff in there just rotting away, and it took about 6 years for that stuff to build up inside the P-trap. So that's the reason number one. And I get a lot of calls like this all the time, and people just usually complain about the smell because the smell is going to come before the reason number two. And that is, well, as the stuff gets built up inside the grooves of that flexible P-trap, over time, well, it's going to get to a point where the water is not going to be able to drain. And it's going to slow down at first, and then eventually it's going to get clogged up completely. Now you can use Drano, and you can run a snake down it, and that will clear it out. But you have to understand, the sidewalls of this flexible P-trap are very thin, and they have to be thin in order for the thing to be flexible. So if you start pouring chemicals down the drain, or even try snaking that, I can guarantee you, if it's an older P-trap like this one right here, 6 years old, you're gonna damage it, and then it's gonna start leaking. Now, these P-traps are very easy to use. It makes a job that is complicated very easy. I mean, as you can see, this one actually started leaking on the bottom. And that brings us to reason number three. And that is, well, over time, the sidewall of this P-trap is going to get, damage, either physical damage from running a snake down it, or chemical damage just from using, chemicals and flushing them down the drain, which is natural in a kitchen. But these speed traps are not designed for long-term use. So if you're gonna use something like this, you gotta keep in mind, make sure it's temporary, and then make sure that you actually change it over time. So that's exactly what I'm doing in this video right here. So the P-trap you see on the screen right now, that's a regular P-trap, and that's what you normally will see underneath the sink on newer homes. And the reason why a lot of people like to use the flexible ones is because, well, a lot of the times the drain coming out of the wall doesn't line up with your sink, especially after a remodel. And that's exactly what's going on here. The kitchen was renovated, and it went from a double sink to a single one, and the drain did not line up. So when it doesn't line up, there are different ways you can fix that. You can use 45, you can use 90 compression fittings like the ones that you see right now on the screen. Um, but you know what? It takes longer. You have to measure, and you actually have to understand the material you're using, because if you don't, well, it's going to make it a lot harder for you. Now, one tip I got to give you about this type of jobs is, well, make sure you have a little bucket in there or something to catch the water. The P-trap is meant to hold water. Every time that you flush anything down the drain, there's always going to be water left in the P-trap, and it is designed to be that way because that the water in that P-trap is what prevents the smells, from coming from backing up and then coming out of the drain. The water stops those smells from coming out of the sewer. And so anytime you take it off, you're gonna have water come out. So make sure you have something to catch the water. Another thing that I wanted to talk about in this video is you also have to take into account there's an RO system hooked up to this right here. So not only am I gonna have to fix the P-trap itself, also I'm gonna have to make sure to drill a new hole and reinstall the drain for the RO system. So right here I wanted to show you something. This is called a tailpiece gasket. It has a flat top and it looks just like that. And it's meant to go right underneath the drain. This is one of the most common mistakes DIYers make when DIYing the plumbing underneath the sink. You got to make sure you get a tailpiece gasket because if you don't, well, it's going to leak. So now the tailpiece that I have right now on the screen, it's meant to have a dishwasher inlet. So you see the little tailpiece right there? That is meant to for the dishwasher hose to hook up to. And that was a little another challenge in this installation. You'll see in just a few minutes what issues I had. Okay, so the main problem with this setup was, well, the drain is not lining up with the wall. So there are two different ways to fix that. One, this is an ABS to compression fitting, and I was just gonna glue it to the wall and call it a day. But then I decided, I'm just gonna go ahead and use compression fittings because I had to do a lot of measuring, I had to do a few cuts, and I didn't want to just glue it to the wall and maybe I'm making a mistake and then it would have been a lot harder to fix my mistake. So compression fittings are usually going to be the way to go for a setup like this, especially if you're doing residential work. And it just takes a few more cuts and you got to measure and get more fittings. It may be a little more expensive because the compression fittings are not as cheap as ABS. One of the things you have to watch out for when using these types of fittings is, well, you got to make sure they're tight. Do not use a wrench, do not use pliers, just hand tight. And just make sure the ends are square and then just tighten it by hand and you're good to go. So a lot of the main mistakes people make is they get a wrench or something and then they just force it. If you do that, you're going to strip the threads and then it's going to leak. So here's a bonus tip. If your dishwasher is draining slowly, or every time you use your dishwasher, you get water at the bottom, just pull in there. Well, it's not draining correctly. And a lot of the times it's not even the pump. It's usually the strainer on the bottom of the dishwasher. But a lot of the times it's the actual discharge hose. As you can see, this hose right here is corrugated, just like the flexible P-trap. And that will catch junk over time as well. And it's just gonna get clogged. So thankfully for this hose right here, most of the blockage was right at the end, and I'm cleaning it out. And I checked the hose entirely all the way to the wall, and then I even got underneath the dishwasher to see what it looked like on the bottom, and it looked clear, so it was mainly right here. Another thing that I wanted to point out is this comes up all the time, especially during inspections. So you see that hose right there? Once you put your hose up, clamp it, and you got to make sure you loop it. Yeah, get the hose and usually just tuck it behind the sink, and just make sure that it's higher than the drain. So to create like a like a P-trap effect. So that's one of the things that I see all the time when people call me to fix, the issues because they didn't loop it correctly. So I always do that anytime I work underneath the sink because that always comes up during an inspection. So the next challenge I had was, well, I had to reinstall the RO's water, discharge water, and the clamp, it was too thick, and I didn't really have that much of a tail piece to clamp it to. So what I had to do, I had to trim it with my oscillating tool. You can see right there, it was just too thick, and I just cut it and made it fit. Sometimes you're gonna have to do things that you're gonna have to use common sense. This is not something you're gonna learn in a book or in college. This is common sense. So as long as you have common sense, you're gonna do well in this type of business. Another thing that I like to do is I get my drill bit, and then I drill a hole. I put the clamp on the tail piece, and then I just drill through like that, so my hole lines up perfectly. And that's it, guys. So this job here took about an hour and a half, and that includes a trip to Home Depot because I didn't have the parts to do it. Not complicated, just a lot of cutting, measuring, and that's it. Super simple. No more smells, no more slow draining, and this should last for a very long time.